Well, here's the challenge for brands, right? Twitter absolutely is more than just a line on the media schedule. You need to think about the natural and organic conversation that consumers are having, whether or not you want to respond and engage with them, and then also think about how you might want to promote or activate that. So I think it's actually a wonderful thing about Twitter. It's one of the things that makes it such a magical platform. It's also one of the hardest things for brands to get right. Heineken's the world's most international beer, so global and local is absolutely essential for what we do. And it's also essential for us to understand how digital platforms work, both locally and globally. Firstly, because at a local level we need to be really relevant. Examples from the US or Brazil around how they've activated local stories or brand stories from a local interest are great examples of how Twitter can get right down to the level of a country or a city. But likewise, it is a global platform. So for big events like Champions League, which has people following it on every continent on Earth, and it's probably the most watched sports event in the world, this is absolutely the perfect opportunity for us to tell one story in a way that appeals to our consumers everywhere. That's one of the things that we've done with Share the Sofa, for example, which is a campaign that gets activated globally and can be picked up locally and given relevance no matter where you are in the world. Well, first of all, you're very right. Responsible communication is a key part of what we do at Heineken. We're really encouraged by opportunities where we can ensure that our brands are only communicating to those people of legal drinking age. If we can ensure that we've got a high level of guarantee that only legal drinking age consumers are exposed to our messaging, then we've got a great opportunity to be very creative and explore new opportunities. Yeah, well, historically there's been a lot of challenges with us doing really big campaigns on Twitter and really doing some great storytelling. And one of the challenges that we've had in the past is that it's been difficult for us to understand that we're talking to legal drinking age consumers. One of the things that happened is that we worked very carefully with Twitter to understand how their age gating solution worked. And after we were really sure that it worked as well as we hoped it did, it's allowed us to do things like Share the Sofa or a campaign that we actually have around responsible drinking called Dance More, Drink Slow. And this ensures that we can fully activate our campaigns knowing that we're reaching our regulatory compliances around who we target and who we have our brand story conversations with. Right, now if you ask me, are all our board directors at Heineken on Twitter? Well, the answer is no. Is our CMO on Twitter? Of course he is. And actually this is a really important thing for our organization. The fact that our organization sees that our CMO is an active person on Twitter, has a point of view that he expresses, and the kind of conversations that he wants to engage in helps inform the rest of the organization about how seriously we do take a platform like Twitter. Well, the first opportunity that we have on Twitter is to maintain our digital inventiveness. At Heineken, that's really important for us to connect with consumers where they're spending their time. And actually, when we look at the kind of stuff that we already invest our time and money in, like Champions League or music, Twitter is a great place where they're having conversations about what interests them. So it's a perfect opportunity for us to be part of that conversation. And it's one of those rare moments where you can have a first or a second screen in that environment that they're in. Okay, well here's a great example of how storytelling has come to life and used Twitter very effectively. We have been sponsoring the Champions League for several years as a brand, and Heineken was really looking for a way to be more inventive and also get closer to the conversation consumers were having around football. We know that about 70% of people that now watch Champions League games during the week are doing so from home. They're not in bars or pubs like they might have been in the past. And over 2/3 of those people at home are using a second screen to watch the game from. And that means that something like Twitter is really important for us to think about in how we tell our story around brands, but also how we tell our story around what consumers want to hear and talk about while the games are going on. So Share the Sofa is one of the big campaigns that we've had to better integrate not only storytelling approach into our brand plans, but also digital into our storytelling approach. So I would have two top tips for other brands in terms of our learnings. The first one is, don't just jump in. Listen to what your consumers are talking about. With Champions League, for example, we took time to understand what motivated them before we started activating. And then secondly, really focus on the types of activations and brand stories you already have. You'd be amazed and surprised how much consumers do want to tell their story about how they love and like brands and what they're doing on Twitter. And actually activating and enhancing that is one of the best ways to get started.